I left the woman I promised forever. She showed up with a wedding cake that killed everyone. I made a promise to a woman once. Forever, I said. Forever. And I meant it when the words left my mouth. But years later, she walked into my wedding reception carrying a cake, wearing a smile that didn't reach her eyes, and by the time the sun came up the next morning, almost everyone who tasted that cake was gone. I'm the only one left to tell this story, and I need you to understand something right now. This isn't about revenge. It's about what happens when you break a person so completely that they become someone else entirely. This is my confession. What you're about to hear is a fictional story, told as a warning. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you are new here, click on the subscribe button so you never missed any of our upcoming videos. I met Amara in the spring of 2008, in a small town in Ohio where everyone knew everyone's business and secrets didn't stay buried for long. She worked at the local library, and I was fresh out of college, working at my father's hardware store, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I remember the first time I saw her. She was reaching for a book on the top shelf, standing on her toes, her dark hair falling across her face. I offered to help, and when she looked at me and smiled, something in my chest shifted. It sounds like a cliché, I know, but that's exactly how it happened. No fireworks, no dramatic music, just a quiet certainty that this person mattered. We started dating that summer. Amara was unlike anyone I'd ever known. She was gentle, thoughtful, the kind of person who remembered small details about people, who brought soup to sick neighbors, who cried during sad movies and wasn't embarrassed about it. She made me want to be better. We'd spend evenings on her porch, talking about the future, about the life we'd build together. She wanted 3 children, she told me. A house with a garden. A dog named something ridiculous like Mr. Pickles. I promised her all of it. I promised her forever, sitting on that porch under a sky full of stars, and I slipped a ring on her finger that cost me 3 months of savings. She cried when she said yes, and I thought I was the luckiest man alive. But here's the thing about promises. They're easy to make when everything is perfect. It's keeping them when life gets hard that shows what you're really made of. And I failed that test completely. 2 years into our engagement, I got an offer I couldn't refuse. At least, that's what I told myself. A tech company in San Francisco wanted to hire me as a project manager. The salary was triple what I was making at the hardware store. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, they said. But it meant leaving Ohio. It meant leaving Amara, at least temporarily, until I could get settled and send for her. That's what I told her when I broke the news. It's temporary, Amara. 6 months, maybe a year. Then you'll come out, and we'll start our life together in California. She smiled, but her eyes were wet, and she nodded like she believed me. I think part of her did. I think part of me did too. I left in October of 2010. Amara drove me to the airport, and we held each other in the parking garage until I almost missed my flight. I'll call you every day, I promised. We'll make this work. She kissed me one last time, and I could taste the salt of her tears. I got on that plane thinking I was doing the right thing, thinking I was building a future for us. But the truth, the real truth I didn't want to admit even to myself, was that I was running. Running from a small town that felt too small, from a life that felt too ordinary, from a future that was already mapped out and predictable. San Francisco changed me. Not all at once, but gradually, like erosion. The city was fast, ambitious, full of people who were going places and doing things. I threw myself into work, into networking events, into a lifestyle that felt important and exciting. At first, I called Amara like I promised. Then the calls became less frequent. Every other day. Twice a week. Whenever I had time. She'd ask about my day, tell me about things happening back home, say she missed me. The second we hung up, I'd be pulled back into my new world, and she'd fade into the background. I met Clara at a company mixer in the summer of 2011. She was a marketing executive, sharp, confident, the kind of woman who commanded attention when she walked into a room. We started talking about work, and the conversation flowed easily. She was ambitious like me, understood the pressure and the excitement of building something. We started having coffee together, then lunch, then dinner. I told myself we were just friends. I told myself I was still committed to Amara. But I was lying to both of us. By fall, Clara and I were dating, and I still hadn't told Amara. The occasional text became my only communication. Vague excuses? Promises we'd talk soon. She stopped asking when I was coming back for a visit. I should have ended things cleanly. I should have called Amara, told her the truth, apologized for wasting her time and breaking her heart. But I was a coward. I convinced myself that if I just stopped responding, she'd get the message and move on. It was cruel and selfish, and I knew it even then, but I did it anyway. The last text she sent me was in December of 2011. It said, "I'll always love you. I hope you find what you're looking for." I never responded. Clara and I got engaged in the spring of 2013. She designed the ring herself, a modern platinum band with a diamond so big it felt almost aggressive. The wedding was planned for September, a lavish affair at a vineyard in Napa Valley. 200 guests, a celebrity chef, a live band. It was everything Clara wanted, everything that screamed success and arrival. I went along with it all, swept up in the momentum, pushing down the occasional flicker of guilt that would surface when I thought about Amara, about the promises I'd made on that porch in Ohio. The wedding day arrived, perfect and warm, the kind of California sunshine that makes everything look like it's been filtered through gold. Clara looked stunning in her designer gown, and I stood at the altar feeling like I'd finally made it, like I'd become the person I was supposed to be. The ceremony was beautiful, flawless. We said our vows, exchanged rings, kissed to thunderous applause. Then we moved to the reception, an elegant outdoor space with white linens and thousands of twinkling lights. The champagne flowed. People laughed and danced. Everything was exactly as it should be. Then the doors opened, and Amara walked in. The music kept playing, but the room seemed to hold its breath. I didn't recognize her at first. She looked different. Older, yes, but it was more than that. There was something harder about her, something settled and purposeful. She wore a simple blue dress, and she was carrying a cake. A wedding cake, 3 tiers, decorated with delicate white flowers. She walked through the crowd like she belonged there, and people stepped aside, confused but polite. Clara grabbed my arm, whispering urgently, "Who is that? Do you know her?" I couldn't speak. My throat had closed up completely. Amara reached our table and set the cake down gently. She looked at me, really looked at me, and smiled. It wasn't a cruel smile or a sad one. It was almost peaceful, like she'd finally found closure. "Congratulations," she said quietly. "I brought you a gift. I made it myself." Her voice was calm, warm even, the same voice I'd fallen in love with years ago. Clara was staring at both of us now, demanding answers with her eyes, but I couldn't look away from Amara. I wanted to say something, to apologize, to explain, but what explanation could possibly be enough? "Thank you," I managed to whisper. Amara nodded. She looked around at the reception, at the beautiful people in their beautiful clothes, at the life I'd built without her. "Enjoy your celebration," she said. "You deserve this." Then she turned and walked back through the crowd, disappearing into the parking lot. The whole encounter had lasted maybe 2 minutes, but it felt like hours. Clara was furious, demanding to know who that woman was, why she'd shown up uninvited. I told her it was someone from my past, that it didn't matter, that we should just enjoy our day. But my hands were shaking, and I couldn't stop watching the door Amara had walked through. I want to know you're still here with me. Drop I'm still watching in the comments right now. The cake sat on our table, beautiful and innocent. Clara's mother suggested we cut it instead of the official wedding cake, since it looked so lovely and someone had gone to such trouble. Clara, still angry but trying to salvage the celebration, agreed. We cut the cake together, her hand over mine on the knife, smiling for the photographer. The first slice went to Clara's parents, the second to my mother. Then we started serving guests, and everyone commented on how delicious it looked, how moist and perfect. Within an hour, people started feeling sick. At first, it was subtle. A guest asking for water, looking pale. Someone excusing themselves to the bathroom. Then more people, moving slower, gripping tables for support. Clara's father collapsed first, right there on the dance floor. Then her mother. Then guest after guest, one after another. The band stopped playing. Someone screamed for help, and chaos erupted. I stood frozen, watching it unfold, my mind refusing to accept what was happening. Clara grabbed my arm, her face gray, her lips trembling. She whispered my name before her legs gave out and I caught her, lowering her to the ground as her eyes rolled back. The paramedics arrived within 20 minutes, but it was already too late for most of them. The vineyard became a triage center, then a crime scene. I watched them work, trying to save people, failing, covering bodies with white sheets. My mother, Clara's parents, friends, colleagues, people who'd come to celebrate with us. Dozens of people ate that cake. By morning, almost all of them were gone. I didn't touch it. Neither did a handful of other guests who'd arrived late or who were watching their diets. We were the only survivors. The investigation moved fast. They identified what caused it within 48 hours. It was fast. It was deliberate. And it was irreversible. They tracked down Amara within a week. She didn't run. She was at her apartment in Ohio, waiting. She confessed immediately, calmly, like she was describing a recipe. She told them she had spent years preparing, quietly and patiently, thinking through every step. She planned every detail, from the timing to the delivery. When they asked her why, she looked directly at the camera and said, "Because he promised me forever, and then he disappeared like I never existed." Because some betrayals, she believed, demanded an answer. I testified at her trial. I told them about our relationship, about the promises I made, about how I'd abandoned her without explanation. The prosecutor tried to paint me as a victim, but I refused that label. I knew what I'd done. I knew the role I played in creating the woman who walked into that vineyard with murder in a cake box. Amara never looked at me during the trial. She sat quietly, showing no emotion, accepting her fate with the same calm she'd shown that day. She was sentenced to life without parole. Multiple counts of first-degree murder. The judge called it one of the most calculated acts of revenge he'd ever seen. I didn't attend the sentencing. I couldn't. I moved away from San Francisco, away from California entirely. I've spent the last 10 years trying to understand what happened, trying to piece together how a gentle librarian who cried at sad movies became someone capable of such devastation. The truth is, I'll never fully understand. But I know this, I broke her. Not the Amara who killed those people, but the Amara who existed before. The woman I promised forever. I broke that promise, and I broke her, and she spent years putting herself back together into something new, something capable of exacting the price she thought I owed. People ask me if I blame her. The answer is complicated. Do I think what she did was justified? No. Understanding how something happens is not the same as excusing it. Nothing justifies taking innocent lives. Those people had nothing to do with what happened between us. They were mothers, fathers, children, friends. They deserved to grow old, to live their lives, to go home that night. But do I understand the rage that drove her to it? Yes. I understand it completely. Because I created it. Every ignored call, every broken promise, every day I let her believe we still had a future when I was already building one with someone else. I was creating the conditions for her transformation. I think about the victims every day. I think about Clara, who died holding my hand, confused and terrified. I think about my mother, who was so proud of me that day, who never got to meet the grandchildren she dreamed of. I think about all of them, and the guilt is a weight I'll carry until I die. But I also think about Amara, about the woman she was before I destroyed her faith in love, in promises, in the basic decency of another human being. So here's what I want you to understand, what I need you to hear. The choices we make ripple outward in ways we can't predict or control. When you make a promise to someone, especially a promise of forever, you're holding their heart in your hands. You can choose to protect it, or you can choose to shatter it. But you don't get to walk away clean. You don't get to pretend it doesn't matter because you've moved on to something better. The pain you cause doesn't disappear just because you're not there to witness it. It grows. It transforms. And sometimes it comes back. I'm not telling you this story to excuse what Amara did. There is no excuse. I'm telling you this because I want you to think about the promises you've made. The people you've hurt. The relationships you've ended badly or let fade away without closure. Because here's the truth that keeps me awake at night. Amara didn't wake up one day and decide to become a killer. She was made into one, piece by piece, choice by choice, including my choices. If you're watching this and you've ever been abandoned by someone you loved, someone who promised you forever and then just disappeared, I want you to know that your pain is real. Your anger is justified. What was done to you matters, even if the person who did it has moved on and forgotten. But I'm also begging you, don't let that pain transform you into something you're not. Don't let someone else's cruelty steal your humanity. Because the cost of revenge, even when it feels righteous, is too high. Amara is in prison for the rest of her life. She'll never be free. And neither will I, because I'm imprisoned by the knowledge that I helped create a monster. When someone breaks a promise to you, what do you believe they owe you? An apology, an explanation, or nothing at all? I genuinely want to know, because I think about this constantly. If I'd just been brave enough to be honest. If I'd called Amara and told her I'd fallen in love with someone else. If I'd given her the closure she deserved. Would she still be the gentle librarian who loved sad movies? Would all those people still be alive? I believe the answer is yes. And if you've ever been the person who made a promise and didn't keep it, I want you to think about the person you left behind. Not because I want you to feel guilty, but because I want you to understand that your actions have consequences that extend far beyond your own life. Reach out. Apologize. Offer closure. Do the hard, uncomfortable thing of acknowledging the pain you caused. It won't undo the damage, but it might prevent it from growing into something darker. I visit the cemetery sometimes, where Clara and my mother and so many others are buried. There's a section now, rows of graves from that day, a permanent reminder of what happened. I stand there and I apologize out loud, even though I know they can't hear me. I tell them I'm sorry. That they deserve better. That I wish I could trade places with any of them. And then I think about Amara, locked in a cell, living with what she's done for the rest of her life. 2 lives destroyed. So many lives taken. All because of a broken promise, and the cowardice of a man who couldn't face the consequences of his choices. Treat people's hearts like the precious, fragile things they are. Keep your promises, or be honest when you can't. Don't vanish. Don't ghost. Don't pretend that because you're not there to see the damage, it doesn't exist. Because it does exist. It festers and grows, and sometimes it comes back in ways you could never imagine. Amara showed up with a wedding cake, and she destroyed everything. But I'm the one who lit the fuse years before, when I slipped a ring on her finger and promised forever without meaning it. Subscribe to hear more stories like this, Stories that force us to confront the uncomfortable truths about human nature, about love and betrayal, about the prices we pay for our choices. Because this isn't just my story. It's a story about all of us, about the capacity we all have to hurt each other and to be hurt, and about the importance of treating that capacity with the respect and caution it deserves. Thank you for listening. I hope you never have to learn these lessons the way I did.